And
Sure.
yeah. So, good evening, all of you. First of all, just brief about, you can say, it's not pretty old, but a bit of a genesis that we can talk about, that how this whole ideal came into Disciplinary Decision Science and Analytics Lab. So I would thank our director, Professor Chandrasekhar, his support, motivation, and that's how it came on August 18th this year. And the first ideal seminar was there on September 5th, the Teachers' Day, and that was by Professor Nagadevara. And that was like a hybrid type of model using data envelopment analysis and machine learning. So it was really nice talk. Now, in continuation, I would like to take an opportunity and introduce today's speaker, Professor Arni S.R. Srinivasa Rao. And Dr. Rao is a professor and director at Laboratory for Theory and Mathematical Modeling, Medical College, Georgia Augusta University. And before that, some of those premium institutes in this country, like ISI Kolkata, he was a faculty there. And he was also a professor in mathematics department in IISc Bangalore. Along with that, he was there, associated with the University of Oxford and also University of Guelph, Canada. In terms of his recent contribution and overall contribution talk about, he can be termed as a pure mathematician, but he took a plunge, and his works are very much relevant and applied. Like a recent time when he was the first to develop the AI-based COVID-19 model who can find the identification of the COVID-19 spread in US. Along with that, he talked about chicken walk models, Rao partition theorem, and many more. So without much delay, I would invite him to deliver his talk. Briefly, I can talk about what he's going to talk today. He is related to AI and COVID-19 and his first model on the AI model for COVID-19 identification. He'll also talk about some of those, his own experience of the logical construction, how a deep learning is closest to AI model, and many more. So over to Professor Rao. The talk would be around 40 minutes. Depends upon you if you want to take a question in between, or maybe Q&A session could be at the end once the talk is over. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Singh. Sabko namaskar and andarki namaskaram. And I'm really honored to give this ideal seminar, which Professor Kumar Singh, he invited me. I'm very honored for that. And I also want to thank the director, Professor Chandrasekhar Gar also. And because, because of COVID, I could not travel for 2 years almost to that part of India, Visakhapatnam, Vijayanagaram, where I grown up. And then I moved to Bombay, ISI, Calcutta, and Bangalore. So last 2 years, I really very much miss my colleagues and friends and family there. And 3 to 4 years back, I visited IIM Vizag. At that time, I gave a talk on blockchain technology. And this is, in fact, that since then, that is the time when I started my serious thinking on AI, artificial intelligence, and the deep learning. And I see that the subject AI is very much close to mathematics than it is to the computer science, because computer science comes later. But if logical constructions are not very much valid or very much not done, the foundations are not very much done, even though computer science come for the technological side is whatever development is done, AI would not reach the purpose it was being designed. So given that idea, I have been working on the blockchain technology that already presented last time. And later I developed methods for deep learning methods for, understanding the infertility among the women in the US. That also we tried on the deep learning, how best the treatment options can be given for the women. And later, the later part, after that, I also developed fundamental theorems of AI. Today, I'm going to touch that. And then, but as Professor Singh mentioned, this talk would be an overall idea about the AI foundations and the healthcare technology. And lastly, I will touch with the first COVID-19 identification model. So let me share my screen. Yeah. As you see the title of the talk, this is artificial intelligence, industrial manufacturing, health systems, and COVID-19. And the Rupreka outline of the talk, if you see that, first I will touch on the artificial intelligence. What are the fundamental technical things of artificial AI in a non-technical way. And then I will highlight the industrial and overall, what is the scenario of the worldwide status, and then where actually the AI stands right now. And then I will also explain a couple of examples I will provide on the AI in health systems and virus research. And then last, I will describe on the COVID-19 identification model. First, let me start with the AI part. Machino mein Kritrima Buddhimatta. So one of the fundamental things I have been promoting for last 3 years very seriously is that in the conferences and in the talks, through the articles, incorporation of actual intelligence into the machines are impossible. We cannot incorporate actual intelligence, for which actually the AI was started 50, 60 years back. It is impossible. That's what one of the fundamental thing I have been promoting. मशीनों में वास्तविक कृत्रिम बुद्धिमत्ता को शामिल करना असंभव है. So an alternative, what is the best alternative one can provide as a mathematician is that nearest alternative that I devised is called exact deep learning machines. And in fact, the COVID-19 identification model also somewhat related to that, but not exactly that. So I will also try to explain the exact deep learning machines in this talk, but I will just briefly describe them. So according to my predictions, the present state of AI technology is very early stage. Even though there is a lot of articles published, a lot of research has been done, still the practical implementation side of the AI is very much in the early baby stage. That means, 3 to 6 month old crawling baby, whatever the intelligence a baby of 3 to 6 month old baby, that much intelligence also currently the AI technologies do not have. Whatever given all these developments, the current state of the AI, that's what I see. That's because many of the experiments, practical experiments, have been failed. They have not been successful. So I want to share that excitement of where exactly the AI stands through this talk. So that means because there is a lot of gap in the purpose of the AI and current state of AI, there is an urgent need that the Indian scientists, technocrats, industries, they all need to clearly understand what exactly the current state of AI and how India can take advantage of that and then take a real leap. Like we all know that IT industry really flourished, that generated a lot of economy. However, the IT industry ended up as a service sector. That means the designs are done outside India, but implementation part for a cheap labor, they have been, the IT, all of the scientists are very brilliant, the IT technology, the engineering, the computer science, but then they ended up as a coders. Majority of them are coders, writing the code for them, for the big IT giants. They design it. Ultimately, the architect gets the credit. Like suppose one writes the millions of lines of code for Microsoft Windows, but Windows won't get the credit. I mean, those who are writing the code, they won't get any credit. The Windows company who hired the coders, they get the credit. That's when designers. So that's what. But in terms of AI, I think India has clearly, that's what India need to understand. The Indian industries and science and technocrats, what exactly the AI, where actually the AI stands. That's why if you see the total authors until 2019, if you see the authors, AI or worldwide authors, and then if you take a scale of 0 to 28,000, US, if you see that, that's the largest number of AI authors, the public authors who publish AI related material in archive. Archive is a preprint server, we all know that. It is not all the authors, just only the archive based authors. It is done by the Global AI Talent Report. According to them, US published about 28,000, the largest in the world, followed by China, which is about 7 to 8,000. Then UK, about 3,000. France, about almost same number. Authors, there are authors until 2019. Germany, Canada, about 2,000. Japan, about 1,500. India, almost same as Japan. South Korea and Netherlands. These are the total top countries who publish, who have the AI authors. Those are articles available in archive. Not all the, it's not the total number of authors across all the preprint servers or all the journals, just on the archives. So if you see that, that's the number of authors. But authors do not make any, just large number of authors. That does not mean that AI is happening there. They are publishing articles, that much only. This slide shows that these many authors are publishing articles. That's it. Now, at the same time, if you see that the supply of AI talented professionals, the number of professionals who can be called as AI professionals worldwide, there are about 5 lakhs are there. The 500,000, that is 5 lakh professionals are there according to 2019. And US, if you see that again, they have about 200,000. Actually, it is 200,000, about a little bit less than that. And India, if you see that, India occupies second position in terms of the professionals. In terms of the articles, India is very low. In terms of professionals, India is almost, India, half of the half of the professionals as that of US. And then UK, see, far lower. Although it's the third country, the third highest professionals UK is supplying, but still it is a third. And then the number wise, only 30,000. China, about 20,000 and so on. But if you see that, interesting point is that these two slides contradict to each other. The supply wise, authors wise, India is so low comparing with other countries. They compare with the major countries. And of course, many other countries, 194 countries, India is much above. But then if you see the economically rich countries, the financial rich countries, if you see that India stands so low in the number of authors wise, whereas the professional talented wise, India stands very high. So and then Japan and Korea, South Korea, interestingly, these two do not stand anywhere in the supply of these talented professionals. Whereas right now, South Korea and Japan, they are producing large number of AI machines. So number of authors wise, having highest number, or number of professional wise, highest number, professional, just talented, the skilled people. Skilled people need not mean that they are generating some economy. They may be having some salaries for them. That does not mean that they are in a position to generate an economy. That means they are not industrialists. They do not produce any much GDP. They do not produce any AI related materials. They do not produce any AI related machines. This is important to note. Just by having authors, or just by, because South Korea and Japan currently producing very high-end, at least need not be fully automated machines, but they are actually into the fully automated, they are semi-automated machines, cars, other industrial units. They are having a lot of advanced automation technology. So that means just by number of having the publications and all these things should not mislead that India having a lot of edge, but India can have definitely an edge over other countries. That's what I will explain how that is possible. And if you see the market trends, currently, although there is a big, big hype in the AI market, the AI creating a lot of money. Yes, AI will create a lot of job market, but there is no clarity on what would be the number of jobs will be created. There is no such clarity. So we need to do there, and I'm also part of the some committees by the government there in India for the CSIR, and we are also trying to estimate the actual job market. What could be the job market? Why not why you have to always have to follow other magazines like in the Western media? Why don't we do our own surveys? Why do we produce our own market trends? So currently there is no such. Maybe India can, like a places like IIM can take the lead in IIM Vizag can take the lead in generating what exactly the AI related job market in the world, in various countries, in India, within India, what are the main AI hubs? Because there is no such clarity currently, and no clarity on what extent of high-end usage AI can be done beyond health informatics. Health informatics, of course, yes. I will also today share some examples. Health informatics already some advancement is done, but no clarity on high-end usage. High-end really, as I mentioned, actual intelligence, incorporation of actual intelligence in machine is impossible. That's what the fundamental thing I have been promoting, using the mathematical arguments. But there is no such clarity on what would be the high-end, at what extent high-end machines can be incorporated, AI can be incorporated into high-end machines. So this is a chip I designed some time back this year. And this kind of chips, if you see the chip industry, chip market, this is my own chip I designed. And if you see because as I mentioned, the computer is much close to mathematics than any other subject. Even it is very, very far for statistics, but then computer is very close to mathematics, because computer cannot we all know that it's a big fool. It is a stupid. It doesn't have its own brain. Whatever you say, it will do, but it cannot do any mistake. That means if cannot do any mistake means the relationships are very accurate. Anything which is accurate, it is math, because computer need to be told everything very, very precisely, and doesn't have its own brain to adopt the rules. So that's the reason that learning part came. Can we learn? Can we train? That's called supervised learning versus the unsupervised learning. In terms of unsupervised learning, we give computer some randomness. We provide some randomness to the computer chips and processors. And then the programming part, we include some randomness. And then we'll see that whether computer can and the machines can learn on their own. And then, but when they learn on their own, whether they're learning properly or not, we currently don't know. We cannot currently predict prior to their experimentation. We cannot predict that whether the unsupervised learning part properly they are how much accuracy is there in unsupervised learning currently we don't have. But then if you see the processor chip industry, we cannot predict the job market, but some estimates, some globally some level of estimation done by some company, some market trend, market research people, they predict that about 91 billion there will be market for chips and processors. And $91 billion US. You make chips, you make processors, somebody is there to buy them. Whether they are able to use these processors and chips in a proper way and they can be trained, that's not, there is no clarity on that. It shows that about $91 billion, there is a market of 91 billion. There could be market chip processors manufacturing. So I myself was very the small, because this doesn't need a large scale industry. Of course, you need a huge establishment, but then you need to discuss something called VLSI. VLSI is part of that. So again, a lot of deep-rooted math-related computational thing and math-related concept VLSI. So one can use that kind of things, but we have India produce a large number of articles in VLSI. But actual chip manufacturing, high-end chip manufacturing is not being happening in India. So these are all gaps in that we need to understand that not just not providing the number of professionals we can't produce the GDP. We cannot generate the GDP. We also have to invest money in chip manufacturing. So what fraction of 91 billion? This is a worldwide market. So what fraction of that India could occupy? So that our imports are reduced and our exports are increased, or at least if you reduce the imports, a lot of money can be saved. So leading areas where AI systems are implemented or potential to be, according to the various sources, language and speech processing. So language part, we already saw that when you in the Google translation or other places, or even the when you open the Word document, MS Office, you see that your spellings are getting corrected or sentences getting corrected. So these are all automated. No one is sitting there back end to correct your sentences. So you see that already there you all can feel that already a lot of things already happened. Speech processing, you can nowadays in the Android, you can speak in your mobile. I myself record a lot of email when I'm traveling. I just record my message in the email and then later I edit it, because sometime when you don't pronounce properly, that won't understand. So still that means a lot of gaps are there. Excuse me, just take a water. So what are one of the area? Language and speech processing. Sorry. Then virus identification and virus research. Especially last 2 years, especially 1.5 years, virus research on virus. So they are trying to use AI. So I myself also propose technology that also I will show in one of the slides, just one slide on the virus research. What's the state of virus research and virus identification, and AI-based toys. So these are the leading areas in AI-based toys and automated vehicles. As I explained, automated vehicles are there already in the market. To some extent, they are able to do their job. That's called, they are low tech. That means they do. I mean, that doesn't need like if you are going and you're traveling in a road, and your car has automated system. That means if you're changing the lane, another car is coming from behind. That your car will give a beep to you, so that you don't change the lane. Or you are changing your radio in the car, you're changing the radio station in the car, and suddenly your car approaching near another car in the front through the front bumper. So that means that it will get a beep saying that your car is so close given the speed. If you're going too slow, then it won't give you beep. So that kind of systems are already there in the market. Or you are taking a turn and another car also approaching the same way, then you get a beep. These are automatic systems. The cars are in earlier cars, they don't have that kind of systems. So India also can manufacture this kind of, because a lot of car industries are there in India. Indian technocrats and Indian scientists can collaborate on this part of this kind of, and because eventually all the cars need to have this kind of system, given the traffic congestions, economies are increasing. So everyone, in a family, everyone will have car eventually, if they, given the current trend, at least in the cities. So this kind of systems, there not much advancement is done where India can really take an advantage of that, because Indian scientists are really bright, brilliant. They can really think more advanced things like math and AI, this and computing programming, all these things. So automated vehicles, there's a big market there. And the stock market trend, a lot of magazines are predicting that stock market trends can be to predict the stock market trends. One can use AI, but still it is not clear. So I will choose this particular example to show that why AI cannot be that much beneficial in that. But many magazines are saying that stock market trend can be predicted using AI. Then low-tech industry, like low-tech industry, as I mentioned above, it is already proven that, the automation can be done. For example, kitchens, a lot of restaurant kitchens, I see that, a lot of advancement done already there in AI, like, and that can very low tech, like, you are mixing some batter there within the kitchen, and then, mixing some, ingredients there. So machines automatically can do that. That's not a very high end, you just design, somebody orders biryani, what all the ingredients in the machine can mix up those things. They're already there. Some of the kitchens, they're already using, some of the restaurant kitchens already using the, in the pilot stage. Like you are driving your car in Vizag, suppose say you go to Laddu Gopal in Siripuram Junction, and then by the time you reach the parking, the sensors in Laddu Gopal, if they install, they can read your credit card even in the, you are in the car. Their systems are there, such kind of systems. You don't have to get out outside the car. Just sit in the car. Laddu Gopal, they can sense your credit card number from the chip in your car, and they can predict the order, what you're going to order. Suppose you have a pattern of every Friday you go and eat something, every Tuesday you go and eat something. So that programs, your food habits are, if they, that predicts, and then that prepares the menu, and maybe it will ask you, do you like to have, so that, that the preparation time gets quicker. The order gets quicker there, because, the Laddu Gopal always busy, very, always, most of the time I went a couple of times, it's very busy place. So for example, maybe you go to the Daspalla hotel there, and then you don't have to, by the time you are in the parking, before you enter the Daspalla hotel, the front desk can predict what is the order. You're going to have a black coffee, you can have a coffee with cream and sugar, or just some tea, whatever the options, that can at least have it. The system will have, that's called low end technology. So low end technology AI systems can be adopted. That won't take much time. But then how far, we need that. But what I'm saying is India can invest a lot of things on low end technology also, because dollars are dollars. If you can generate a good amount of rupees in India, through business, that will help our GDP. So all these things, the AI current state of, the market trend shows that the language and the speech processing, virus identification, AI-based toys and machines, vehicles, stock market, and low-tech technology. So first I will take an example. These are already mentioned, the low-tech technology it can use, whereas high-end technology still we are not sure. But whenever the definitions are very precisely provided, mathematically very solid definitions, solid logical constructions, AI can be applied anywhere. But how far we need, that's a different thing. So the general framework of stock market model that I'll explain. Suppose an individual or a firm interested in AI model, interested in using an AI model for understanding the future value of a stock. So future value could be after several days, weeks, or months, whatever it could be. Suppose a AI system, we are interested in developing a AI system for such question, that an individual interested in using an AI for understanding future value of a stock that she or he want to buy. So first thing, that kind of setup need to be done is shortlisting of all the variables that influence the future value of the stock. That means that for that you need experts in the field. That means the shortlisting has to be done first, all the variables which are relevant. Then you collect the data on those things, and the collection and the data entry. So if you have a timeline, so you collect all the past data. The black line indicates that the past data, that's what the data collected and the collection and entry done at that point. You collect all the data, because we don't have a future data, future, no one can predict the future data. So whatever data we have, we will for the past. Retrospective, that's called retrospective data. In a statistical language, retrospective means past. Past data we can collect after the experts shortlist the variables. Then the future value of the AI, the future value of the stock through the AI system. Suppose we want to know at that particular time in the future. And then we don't have this value, the dotted lines, we don't have the idea. We have no idea about what these values are in the future, but we have only up to this previous, this line of data collection done up to this point. So this part, the dotted line part, you need to have some idea to predict those things. And then in that kind of situations, a stochastic model is built with some, some variables, consideration of all the variables together, and then some functional form will be taken to predict the future value. With some error, of course, there will be some error. I mean, error of prediction will be there. Stochastic model is built. But in this case, can we build a mathematical model for a future value? No. We can build, of course, we can misuse the math and build a model there. But ideally, we cannot build a proper mathematical model for this kind of example, because future value means uncertainty. Lot of things are involved and there is no exact relation. Given the today's market value of a stock, there is no exact relation for a value of that particular stock in the future. That's what I mentioned in the previous slide. When the data is mathematically accurate, the relationships are properly defined and properly definable, then only you will go for the AI will be very much successful. So in this case, we know that very much, although we can build a very stochastic, very sophisticated model. It sounds very attractive statistically or could be attractive stochastically, but still that attractiveness and I like something doesn't mean that we are able to predict a future value. So that's what the current status of a AI in a stock market model. So once this is done, this part is done. This question I asked, but usually currently mathematical models are not successful. They build a stochastic model and then they incorporate that AI into that. That means automatically. So each day, whenever you choose any particular day in the future, this model performs, and each time you choose a date, automatically at the back end machine performs this model, runs this model, and then gives a value for the future stock. And it is to buy or not to buy up to you, because this cannot be accurate. This can never be accurate also, because data collection is done up to this point, and future values can never be accurately predicted, because a lot of things are there. Market is not about that particular stock value. Many other things are involved, and those fluctuations are very, very difficult to predict accurately. One can predict anything, but then predicting accurately is more important. That's what we are thinking. That's what we are talking about AI. Can we use AI in stock market models, stock market predictions? Currently, as far as shows that it is not that much reliable. And then the second example, virus research. Yeah. If you see that currently, if you see the virus, suppose they consider second example is about virus research in AI. What exactly the AI can be, what is the role of AI in virus research? Let us consider this example of, we have RT-PCR. We all know the name of RT-PCR, reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction, that has been frequently used now for COVID identification also, COVID virus and detection of COVID in the body. Suppose say this, this is my, created, some form of virus. It spikes. That's what, as a mathematician, I created some, namuna of the virus. And then you test it, and then you can do a regular PCR. This is for whether you take the culture and put it in the PCR machine or RT-PCR machine, and then you test them. You see the any particular virus properties of the particular virus. It could be COVID or any other virus, swine flu, avian influenza, HIV, tuberculosis, anything. You choose your thing, and then from these two created data, all the parameter spaces, what kind of all the the baseline parameters of that particular virus. You detect a virus and you tabulate them, all possible parameters, and then using that, you repeat the experiment various times, and then you develop super parameter space. That's called, I call UB prime is a super parameter space. And this is a parameter space. This is super parameter space. And then this from C to D, the development of C to D is done by multiple experimentation, because one experiment is done in Vizag, one experiment done in Vijayawada, another experiment done in Raipur, another experiment done in Anand, another experiment in Kolkata, another experiment in Bombay. Various experiments are done various places, and then super parameter space is collected on that particular virus, and then machine is trained on these particular parameters. What are all the parameter values? If this is what this is the structure.
Did we lose him? Okay. Professor Rao, can you hear us?
Super parameter.
I think we dropped him, lost him, but
I think he just joined again.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Professor,
yeah, we lost to you, but I think
Since when you lost me?
when you're talking about that supervised learning of that parameter space.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. You start from there. Here. Now, can you hear me?
we cannot see your slides, Professor.
Oh, you cannot see my. Okay. Now, can you see? Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can see yours.
Okay. So you are up to here?
Right.
Yeah, sorry for that. I don't know. Yeah, some voice came saying that recording has stopped, something like that. Anyway, so the super parameter space, when we create from that means the super parameter space will have all the necessary information of the virus. That is what we create. And once this is all done from the laboratory data, and once that is done, now whatever the experiments done in Vizag, Raipur, Calcutta, other places, in India, that you can make the viruses to mutate themselves. So you create some mutation formula, laboratory. These all virologists you have to be done. They have to do virus mutations, artificial. That's what this is not artificial intelligence. It's just artificial virus mutations. So new viruses are emerged. So you make the new viruses emerge from them through mutations from the ANB data, and then once the virus mutation is done, parallelly using this value there, virus values are there. We have a UB prime, the super parameter spaces. So using the super parameter space, whatever we created, use them to artificially through the computers, you generate the virus code. Code means the virus, their ACTG, that the code there. So the virus code, when you generate that, you match the virus with the virus code generated, the matching part. Matching part, you machine generated virus sequences, ACTG, that and then with the machine generated through this, this one is a laboratory generated virus mutations, and this is the machine generated laboratory mutations based on the master, the super parameter space, and then you match them. So this experiment, when you conduct and match them, if that is all the viruses are matched, identified by the virus, by the machine, that means AI is successful. But currently we don't know. This is just, I myself also currently, asked a $5 million grant for that, with collaborating with the virus research, developing the mathematics part of that and the computation. And then that's what. So this is the current state of virus research anywhere in the world. No one has advanced beyond this. What I am showing this slide, nothing has gone beyond this. So people are predicting the magazines, more market magazines, all these things, business magazines. They're all saying that the 5 areas I mentioned. One of that is virus research, but currently we have no idea that AI will be successful to generate. Why this is important is because there are some questions that can we predict future viruses through AI? Because because naturally we cannot predict, because virus mutation is very much natural. And virus spread is very much natural. Microorganisms, they spread naturally. They don't have any ill intention. Coronavirus do not have any ill intention. Coronavirus itself, to infect humans. They don't have any enmity with humans. They naturally spread. That's what their property is. So at least you can chase them. You can chase them. You can predict in advance. So whether the machines can predict the future virus in advance so that you can protect yourself. That's what at least you can do. But currently this is status, and we have not much experiments done worldwide anywhere in the world. So again, that can take a leap. A lot of collaborators can come together and take a leap in this kind of research. And then given these 2 major examples. So that means, as I mentioned, the model validation, AI, all things can be done, this kind of experimentation. So as I mentioned, India can take take advantage of this, gaps where the world currently AI research stands, and then industrial growth. Unless, just by publication of articles, publications are important, but just for publication of articles, we cannot generate the GDP. Like any other science, also India produces a large number of chemistry articles, chemical engineering, chemistry. India, one of the largest producing research articles in top class journals. But whereas, the car batteries, modern car, not the car batteries like said, but modern car batteries need, the cars, those run with batteries that need a lot of advanced chemical technology and chemistry and chemical technology, material science. Material science itself is a kind of a chemical chemistry, all that, the various properties. So, but India could not produce so that means India can also take advantage of that car batteries, because, the eco-friendly. In the future, everything maybe, we all maybe had driving only the battery cars, battery, those cars that go with the batteries only. So that means India can invest a lot of money in this kind of technologies, and then see that, the chip designing, all these things. And then India has definitely an edge, because a lot of, that many articles India producing in chemistry, so that, and the chemical engineering and material sciences. So that can be translated to our own benefits, not just publishing in Nature, Science, and all these journals. That by publishing, we cannot generate the GDP. We have to translate the technology, science into technology into GDP. So this talk not related to that, but very recently I gave a talk last month organized by NCERT, where I shown the relationship between the ancient mathematics and then modern mathematics and then AI. There you can see that, that interested participants can see that. There I argued how historically India has really done very well in terms of the computation. They may not have modern computing methods, but they did a lot of advanced computations 1500 years ago to 2500 years ago. And that time, no one else at that time done that kind of advanced computing where India has done in the past. So exact deep learning machines, which I invented, but I'm not going to talk on that. The technicals are there, a couple of slides, I'll skip, and I'll come back to that if there are any questions. I'll be very, very happy to come back. So here, the advantage of this kind of machines are, these EDLMs I called exact deep learning machines, is there is no uncertainty. So as I mentioned, the computers they don't have their own brain. They just follow the instructions. They cannot take up any decision on their own. Like you all remember, some of you remember that in late 80s when I was in school, there was a machine called Deep Blue machine, which actually beat that time the world chess champion Garry Kasparov. That machine beat Garry Kasparov in 80s. And then same machine was beaten by lower ranked. Garry Kasparov was highest ranked at that time, number 1. He was very, very far from number 2. He very much above number 2, second ranked player. But then third ranked, fourth ranked, even Vishwanath Anand, he was that time third rank or fourth rank. I don't remember. He beat Deep Blue machine. Why? Because those machines are stupid, because in a sense, they know what is being told to them. The Deep Blue machine is very superpower. It's very smart, but the smartness stops only at the time, only the level of instruction you give it to them. So that machine was fed with all the Garry Kasparov moves, chess champion. He was all the moves of Garry Kasparov, millions of moves, that simulated, further simulation done based on the move, what are the games he played over the past 10 years. And then that machine beat the Garry Kasparov. Whereas same machine could not understand the Vishwanath Anand machine moves. And Kramnik, who was a third rank player that time. I remember this was a big sensation news. Kramnik beat Deep Blue. Vishwanath Anand beat Deep Blue because Deep Blue knows only the steps of Garry Kasparov. Knows means that was only fed onto the machine. So, the machines have their own limitations. So this particular EDLMs which I developed, they can be used only when relationships are accurate, mathematically well defined. So I can go technicalities later. But then one of the main advantages is that there is no uncertainty. If you are applying that machine is eligible to be applied, then there is no uncertainty about the utility. It can be utilized for the purpose it is being designed. And then last phase of my talk, I will describe about the COVID-19 identification model. Most of the time, before the COVID, I have been building mathematical models, worked for the government of India. Assisted the government of India in various policies for HIV, swine flu, other things, their committees. But when COVID-19 came, that was in January 2020, the data was not enough data on the spread. I was not sure whether mathematical model is the right time for the right thing to build at the time. So what I built was, instead of a mathematical model, I thought that we have to first know who are at risk of having COVID, not instead of having how many people will have COVID. So I developed a model in the end of January, sometime 2020, with the AI framework. And then all the mathematics done, the equation part, everything done. And then the first draft is written. Then I asked my clinical colleague, Joe Vasquez, is the infectious disease doctor, whether he can collaborate with me. To see that, clinical part of that COVID-19, because no one knows what are the symptoms and all these things. He collaborated, he looked at my draft, and we both jointly published. This is the historically first COVID model using the AI. So this, within 5 days, the journal, which is the flagship journal of the IDSA stands for Infectious Disease Society of America, their flagship journal called Infection Control and Hospital Epidemiology. So they published this they accepted in 5 days after peer review. And then this stands, at that time when we developed this model, only 5 cases were there in the US. Only 5 cases of COVID were detected, officially been reported. And then India, almost 0 cases those time. Only Europe had some cases, and in China. At that time, this model developed, and later, this model had received a worldwide attention for its applicability, and various. I was being consulted by the airlines, and then also various hospitals in India across the world. So this gave me a very good opportunity to really work closely on the COVID-19. So briefly, how this AI model for the COVID-19 identification works. At the first phase, a basic level of the travel history, along with the more common signs and symptoms using mobile phone based survey will be collected. So the signs and symptoms are based on the WHO and CDC definitions, not my own. So that information will be fed into the mobile phone app, and then individual users will be using the app to generate the online survey. And in the second phase, back-end hospital will be set up with the AI machine to see that whoever responds to the survey, that individual will be given instantly a message saying that you have a risk of COVID-19 or you don't have a risk of COVID-19. If you have a risk of COVID-19, then which hospital to go? And the hospital also simultaneously will give an alert. The hospital also will receive an alert from the concerned doctor saying that so-and-so person will be coming to you, so that they can match it. So that one person is entering the phone survey, another person going to the hospital cannot happen. So the matching, proper matching can be done. So thousands of data points are processed at the back end, front end only the app. So this is the idea of this first AI model. And pictorially, if you see, suppose this is the geographical region, this is the region we choose. And then these are the dotted lines are the houses and circles are the houses, households within a house. So these are individuals, this is the house, and this is the geographical region. And then once we did this data is the mobile phone apps are sent to them. Some of them will be responding, some of them don't respond. Suppose yellow dots indicates they don't respond to the survey, and then blue dot indicates they responded to the survey. And then the survey they responded, and those who responded also, those who responded, among them only we can have a virus. We can have a status on them, not all the individuals. So this is the summary of the model, the summary of the first the COVID model. And then we have a theorem also. I'm not going to that. So what is the chance that a given individual responds to the survey, that individual will be identified? The individual respond to survey is being identified. What is the chance of being identification of COVID is, that theorem is done. So I'm skipping the slides on the proof. I will again come back technicalities. We'll be very happy. And then, a lot of worldwide, as I mentioned, including India, various languages in the world, it is being covered as the first model to COVID identification. Several hospitals across the world, and then this inspired for Arogya Setu when we published this article for 2020. This came in the, almost 300 media outlets worldwide covered that. We are very thankful to all of them, which made the quickly to COVID identification process very, very quick worldwide. And so that ends the this thing. And I'm going to start a new journal. Already the background work started that related to the AI and math. This is during the 75th year of India's independence and Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. During that period, I will be very happy to working on the currently working on the back end is to designing the format, everything on the journal name will be Journal of Exact Computation. And ancient India also, historically we know that Aryabhatta, many other mathematicians, they computed things very, very accurately. Even the pi value, as I mentioned other talk, the value of pi value up to 5th decimal being computed by Aryabhatta in the 5th century AD. So that without having any computing things, without having any modern gadgets, without having any telescopes. So India is very, very rich in computation with the accurate mathematics. So the new journal, we all knew India, one side, government expects the high-end research from Indian youth, whereas India do not have very world-class journals. So many, we are very, very, very countable number, hardly less than 10. One of that is Current Science in India, which publishes from Bangalore, Indian Academy of Sciences or Current Science Association. That's one of the regularly read journal from outside India, but most of journals are not. So that's recently the one article being published in the Current Science also, that why the rise of, why the bar of Indian science journals are so low or something like that. So there was discussion on that. Anyway, you will know more from your ideal head, Professor Kumar Singh, about this journal. And then this will be a high quality journal, focuses interface between the AI and mathematics. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Rao. Now I think the floor is open for questions. So anyone who has any question. I think Milan has a question in between related to stock market application with AI. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
So Professor, just philosophically, why do you believe actual intelligence cannot be imparted?
Why I think?
Yes.
Sure, that's a great question. Why I think, correct. Machines have, they have a processors and they have chips, which actually translate the data you enter or instructions you provide, and it will create something, predict something. For example, say 1 million, if a 1 million images of a cat is shown to computer, image through the shown means is read by the computer machine to say it's a cat, this is the various kinds of cats, and 1 million plus one image of dog, which is a dog's image, 1 millionth one image which is a dog is being shown to computer. The dog might have the hair look like a cat. A computer can be confused that it's a cat. A dog in the dog's image, several experiments have shown that, but a human baby, a 6-month-old baby, may not see 1 million number of cats. It may see only 4 to 5 number of cats. But it can never make confusion what is a cat, what is a dog. In a home, if there are dog look like a cat, almost look like, but a puppy or a cat, the distinction can be made. So the computing, the part of the computer, the chip or microprocessor that has to be exactly told everything to that. That exactness, whatever human do not know, the computer would not know. Computer cannot think on its own anything. It may think so much complicated things. It may not commit any errors, but it would not know what it is not being told. So always that means logically there is an end for computer thinking. Whatever we may tell that unsupervised learning. So unsupervised learning computer might create. So that means we are told about 100 days weather in Vizag, and then we want to create 101st days weather in Vizag, suppose our temperature, and then you make the unsupervised learning. That means you don't train the computer, you don't give a computer how to predict for 101st day. So computer can predict anything. So in a summer, computer might say that sub-zero temperature because it is not been supervised. And if you supervise, that means you have to told exactly. So supervised training would make exact training. Exact training means we have to know exactly what would be the tomorrow's temperature, and tomorrow human cannot never know what would be the exact temperature tomorrow unless we have some other information on the clouds. So everything, if we know, then only computer knows.
So I'll tell you, so philosophically, you are acting like an Indian parent wherein you expect a lot from a computer algorithm.
Correct.
Simply put, if I want a computer algorithm to excel in one direction. So again, Deep Blue, the example that you used, there are a lot of controversy of how they were able to beat Gary Kasparov. But having said that, even today they cannot. Magnus Carlsen always draws with even best of the algorithm till date. But having said that, the development is way advanced in today, at least in terms of chess engines. So if I put one stress on one algorithm, don't you believe in another 10-15 years they'll outperform human best chess player on planet?
Correct.
That can happen. So probably
absolutely that can happen. That can happen. What I'm saying is low tech technologies, the way there are the rules are very much specified, because computer can never have its own step. At least you have to tell in advance that if you take these 100 combinations versus 200 more combinations, like Jeopardy. Jeopardy is like our Who Will Be Millionaire. Jeopardy like Kaun Bane Crorepati kind of thing. Jeopardy. So there also the machines won in comparison with the human contestants. But machine was told all the answers in advance. So when computer knows everything in advance, only that situations they can perform. Like for example, the car, you take a very good example. Like for example, cars. Recently, the court also stopped the Tesla's on-road experiments of cars because a pregnant lady was crossing the road at a non-zebra crossing, and the car hit her. And also another car hit the police car. Police stopped another car for giving a ticket, and this driverless car hit the police car.
Isn't what actual intelligence about that? Humans are flawed, algorithms will end up being flawed.
Correct. Absolutely. You are right. So wherever human do not know, they also make a commit error. That's correct. I agree with you.
Simply put, intelligence of algorithm would be equivalent to intelligence of humans, which is tantamount to some flaws that they'll have. But I
would like to interject in between because I'm on the same line with Mil. I think it is bounded by the collective intelligence of the human, what Professor Rao is trying to say, not the individual human's intelligence.
Yes. So
So
let me just
always
add
the
one more
algorithm will be always lower than the collective intelligence of the human.
Not necessarily. I have some disagreement there because of some reasons. But let me just conclude with one last question. What about if we incorporate idea of death in artificial intelligence?
Idea of
Death in artificial intelligence. Simply put, we create an algorithm and we say, look, we will discard this algorithm after 50 years. And with this knowledge, we ask AIs to either supervise or learn.
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we incorporate that means kill that particular algorithm
Yes.
and start a new algorithm on its own. So there are debates on that. Like, can AI, suppose you create a AI machine, can AI machine can create another AI machine itself? It
And
is
must
still,
die in the process.
yes. That means when to die. If it is exactly told by the humans, I mean, collective wisdom, as Professor Singh was mentioning, it's not that you and me individually, it is about the collectively, whatever the knowledge, like virus research, collectively various. So when that information is told to the computer in advance, that means exact.
That is what. So suppose if we give as a parameter, look, life of this algorithm is going to be only 1 week. Whatever you learn, you'll have to pass on to a new algorithm that you build. And in the process, you'll have to die.
Yes.
Because again, very minimal reading of this, the philosophy part of it, incorporating idea of death is still missing in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but there is a term called the evolution. Rather, you call it a death. Every algorithm is removed by another algorithm. It's an improvement. Rather, you call it a death.
Humans are doing evolution. That is what I'm saying. Algorithms are not told to die. That look, you do your work and you must die at this point or after this much duration. Because so whenever we talk about actual intelligence or human-like intelligence, death is a inseparable part of that learning, which is right now is missing in that discussion, is what I feel. Probably that is why this actual intelligence business is now at a very nascent stage. Just your thoughts on that. And
yeah, absolutely. That's what what you are raising. I really appreciate that. We need to have a what is the end of the AI, where exactly it is going to be. Like, we can misuse, for example, a drone is given like some experiments are done on a drones, given a AI chip, it can collect the photos, whatever it wanted to, but it can lead into a places where, it should not go. So because it is directing its own, like self-regulated directions of the drone, like it can, the chips are told random directions within latitude and longitude given, rest all is untold to them. Untold means boundaries are given, everything has to be told, but then that is been unsupervised training. So it can create its own directions in advance, but within a chip, within the boundaries are given. So it was found that the drones which are not supposed to go in certain regions, certain demarked regions, the drone entering into those regions. So AI can be also misused, like, the usage of AI. Ultimately, where not to go, the drone has to be told. Then the new experiments are done on them, where those areas they blocked in the program, then the drone did not go those areas. So again, the randomness, utilization of the randomness, like low tech, that's why the low tech technology, AI can be adopted easily. Easily means without any complications. Whereas high end, like the operations or the virus research, for example, machines predict the new virus, but new virus may not come, may not be there in the future, that particular virus. So all the investments on the virus particular research, we may develop vaccines in advance so that this virus is going to come. AI predicted so and so virus will come, COVID-22 will come. We develop all the vaccines on the COVID-22, but COVID-22 has not come. So how much invest today on the virus research also not very sure, but people are developing. So my point was we should not fall trap into that. We have to define our own strategies, our own, because we have a brilliant technologies. We have people like you all and various parts of India. We have brilliant people there, the industries, they have to come together so that, we decide what is needed for our own. We judge it. We don't have to be carried by these articles published and then carried out by this experiment, carried out by fancy machines.
Let us take question from
Thank you.
Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Shall I?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
go ahead. We have another 5 minutes we can take.
Okay. So, building on Professor Millen's question and also taking the clue from what you said, two things I was wondering. The one which said that killing the innocent people by drone, all those things. So we are talking about the consciousness, right? Not the intelligence. Okay. So probably I don't know what is the definition of intelligence thing. But the thing is, another one which we were thinking, and even Professor Shiva was talking, that should the intelligence of the machine be bounded by human intelligence? Okay. Why I am asking is, I am taking the clue from the social construction of reality, okay, where whatever we see, right, it is a reality constructed by human, right? Why machines need to think the way humans think? Why their reality should be same as our reality? Okay, why cannot they have their own reality? At the end of the day, if they can do what we want to do, okay, should their intelligence be our intelligence? Should their intelligence be guided by our intelligence? Can they have their own intelligence?
Correct. This is related in a way. That's a good question too. I really like it because machine intelligence, the way we define is machine intelligence means machines, the way machine performs given the instruction to the machine. It is not that randomly, if you have a robo in the machine, like cleaning nowadays, we have the cleaning carpet cleaners, we have a robo, small robos are in there, they clean the carpets in home. That's there very much in India. India producing, one of my friend told that, China produces currently with 9,000 rupees. The cost India is producing about 3,500, that kind of machine robos in India that can produce, they can be produced. But then that machine, suppose that can randomly go anywhere, wherever the dust falls in the room, the robo walks to that and it absorbs, it vacuum like a vacuum cleaner. So that kind of machines are there. So that intelligence means here machine intelligence is not same as human intelligence. Human intelligence means, suppose we were told, suppose you don't put you don't put your hand in the say the TV wire. Don't touch the hand in the TV wire. That means you also have intelligence not to touch the fridge wire. But machine can never, unless you tell the machine that don't touch the TV wire, means don't touch the TV wire only. Doesn't mean that don't touch the fridge wire. Or you define all the wires out, all sorts of wires in the machine, you define them in advance and tell the machine. Similarly, carpet cleaning robo, I was told that it can absorb anything, any dust particle with some size, some size is the molecule, some size of the granules. And beyond that or smaller than that, smaller than that, that robo is not able to absorb because that was not told. Machine intelligence depends on what level of intelligence human is giving to the machines. Like cardiologist, I know a good very top. I mean, we all very good top cardiologist because we collaborated on recently on AI model for the catheter, changing the ablation. They give you some sort of, in the movies, you see the Bollywood movies they hold two magnets and put onto the chest. So that kind of treatment, and then where AI went to introduce that treatment. So the cardiologist, any high-rated top-class cardiologist, he can cut the heart, he can see how many valves are, even mosquito or small insects, even ant heart also, they can, the doctors can cut it and see that how many valves are there in a ant heart. But a new heart cannot be created, cannot be constructed by the current state of medical technology. New living organism cannot be created. That's where the intelligence, that's what the 50s and 60s, when they started AI, they thought that a small piece of intelligence piece can be added to the machine on the backside of the head. Like you saw in that many Spider-Man 2, that Dr. Octavius, he, he sees that, he has 8 octopus kind of tentacles, and then, he put some machine in the, so that's what the original idea. They thought that a small piece of additional piece to the brain can be attached, where human can behave extraordinarily. Similarly, machines can be added that part of intelligence where they take a self-decisions. Like jumping onto, like a current example I gave, or you say that suppose don't jump into the hot water. Suppose you tell a machine don't go into the hot, it beeps. Maybe you put a hot milk, the machine might jump into that.
Right, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, firstly, thank you for your talk. I will keep my question very brief. So I really liked your talk, and you said machines cannot deal with uncertainty. Just out of theoretical curiosity, so too can humans cannot deal with uncertainty in the strictest sense of the term. So whatever human beings, let us say, if we are predicting stock returns, human beings also will not be able to predict stock returns because there are too many factors involved. Let us say whatever human beings are doing and however human beings are dealing with uncertainty to the extent they are dealing, if the machines are taught how human beings are making decisions under uncertainty, whatever combinations of uncertainty there are, or whatever scenarios there is uncertainty, will machines can also machines match up to what human beings are dealing, how human beings are dealing with uncertainty? Can it be taught to machines, and thereby so there is strictly something that we will assign probabilities to and think that this might happen, and we will deal with it that way. So can machines also be essentially, if we dig deeper, can we get to every essential step as to how human mind is making decisions and formulating the probabilities and formulating that question on uncertainty? And can machines also formulate it that way? And then match up?
Yes, it's a good question. Decisions, whatever human mind can make a decision, if that is being told, as I was mentioning, machine has to be told very, very precisely, accurately. The fuzziness machines cannot handle. Fuzziness means what to be told. Even the randomness, whatever randomness is like, that's why you see the time, the computer generated random numbers are called pseudo random numbers. They are not ideal random numbers, because von Neumann, when he done experiments in 1945, 46, the ENIAC, development of ENIAC computers, the machine that time, you all can generate random numbers through computers. That means computer generate random numbers based on the time of that computer. Now it is say 7 o'clock, 6 minutes, 23 seconds. So at that time, that becomes a seed to the computer to generate a sequence of random numbers. That means ideal random numbers means no one should know what would be the next number, isn't it? No one should know, but then computer knows itself.
Because it always already has that pre-formulated tables of
Correct.
that seed.
Numbers, the algorithm is given to the computer to generate what set of numbers depending on the time of the clicking. So you may not know, I may not know, but computer knows it. That means that's why the randomness generated by the computer is a pseudo random. It is not a real random. That means anything can be trained to the computer, but natural intelligence, as I'm mentioning, that natural kind of intelligence which is not being told to the computer. Computer can never acquire that. You might give 100 options and then take that 100 factorial, all the permutations of that to be taken by the computer. Still, you have to tell that you take 100 factorial. If you give 100 options and then 101th option computer is not told, that option computer naturally cannot pick up. That also to computer to be randomness, computer to be told what exactly is that random, what is binomial model, Poisson model, future stock follows some other model. Everything had to be pre-told to the computer machine. So the pre-told, who is telling pre-told? As collective wisdom. Someone knows, someone told, someone fed somewhere. That's what the blockchain, last time the talk I gave in the IMV, blockchain, I mean, various people are entering various informations, that all information computer can combine, but that combine, what to combine also to be told. Computer cannot make a decision that, okay, I don't want stock exchange Bombay data, I don't want Chennai data, I want only Vijayawada and Raipur data. No, that also to be told to the computer. Suppose suddenly some cyclone came in Bombay Stock Exchange. So don't consider that information. No, that has to be told in advance. So that level of intelligence, whatever the intelligence automatically to be given, that's a randomly created intelligence to the computer. That also to be defined very precisely.
In a sense, they can never match the way we think human. When I say we human beings think about this randomness.
That means human collectively have to know complete information. Collectively, if all the humans know complete information, but that can never happen. As I gave the example of a creation of a living organism. Living organisms, we cannot create. What is that? If that human is so powerful, so far human could have created a mosquito. Can we create a mosquito? No. I mean, we can create a mosquito from a mosquito egg. I mean, like artificial insemination. That's a different thing. I'm not talking about that. Can we create some new living being which has never existed? No. Why? Because that part of the intelligence is human. I mean, so far the evidence, like evolution, like Indian biologists, several times I chat with them. I was in IISc Bangalore in math, I have very close. I respect them. But then Darwin's evolution, no one questioned it. People believed it. That's why it has never been proved. Darwin's evolution also, it is just a theory. It is never been proved that then why the evolution stopped after human. This type of questions, or is there any proof that nothing happened in the past and only just these are the natural evolution? Or what is the time breakdown of this evolution? These type of several questions are there where our biologists are, that they have to think about. Similarly, the human evolution, what is the next phase? Initially, when the AI started in 50s and 60s, they thought that will take over humans. It can take over, like a false chip, I gave a drone example, it can definitely take over, but then the randomness have to be created by the human to them.
Right, then it is already, it is visible. It was interesting talk. We have kind of passed 20 minutes, but now let us sum it here. And first of all, a thank to you, Professor Rao, for such a great talk and the discussion. And I'll thank Professor Milan also, who took wind towards the philosophical side rather on the applied side. So let me just put that on the applied side, that what we learn and what is the takeaway for a business school, probably. The way beautifully you gave a landscape on the research front where India is lying, and where as a professionals where the India is contributing to the AI industry. It was a nice way that you put the whole landscape. And later you talk about the potential application. One which was very interesting was related to low tech industry, like Swiggy, where the cloud kitchens are going to come. And this whole digital economy and the food delivery, the population like India and this Indochina region, it will be really helpful in terms of the AI application. And later you talk about the application of the stock market, and also you can relate it to COVID virus research and COVID-19. That's what probably when we see the healthcare operation, that's also another way that the business school always looks into the operations management of the healthcare system, would be one of the takeaway from your talk. And summing up from my side, once again, a thank you. You are sitting there in US, but our director, Professor Chansekar, has a tradition here to give a memento. Maybe when you will come India, and then we'll hand over to you. But certainly, one appreciation and other thing that you will certainly receive from our end. So, thank you so much once again. Thanks to all my colleagues here for 1.5 hours sitting here with Professor Rao, and PhD students and other participants. Thank you so much for coming here. Thanks all, and special thanks to Professor Rao.
Thanks a lot. I really enjoyed. The questions are very, very intelligent questions. I really enjoyed. I have noted down in my mind the questions. I'll write it down after the talk. And amazing. You know, last time also I visited. My respect already there, and I saw the brilliant interaction last time, 3-4 years back, live in-person visit. And thanks, Professor Shiv Kumar Singh, for your initiative, and good luck for all. Namaste.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Namaskaram, sir.
Namaste.